Hi, I'm Sandra Parker. Do you struggle with motivation? Do you have problems setting goals, sticking with things? I want to talk about what is it that motivates us and how can we connect with that power. A lot of times people come in to see me with concerns about not being able to motivate themselves effectively. Either they can't get anything done unless they have deadlines crashing down on them, and otherwise they're just procrastinating from here to, next millennium, or they just a variety of different things. They can't get themselves started. They don't really know what they want to do. They're not connected in any way to a goal. And what's clear to me with motivation is that when people are struggling with motivation, they're often struggling with a disconnect between their emotions and their awareness. Because emotion is the source of motivation. It is the energy source. When something actually matters to us, when we can feel a connect to something, we have a certain energy, we have a certain drive that actually gets us to where we want to go, right? We can see where we want to go. We have a feeling of wanting it, and the energy of that draws us forward, all right? And so very much about what I'm trying to help people do is tune into emotion. And over again, people struggle with feeling emotion because it's vulnerable. Emotion actually is a very vulnerable thing. And so emotion is the engine for growth. That's very, very, very central to most theories. Emotion is the driving force for growth and development from a psychological point of view. And emotion is fundamentally vulnerable, all right? The actual experiencing of emotion is something we're not in control of. And so often people are struggling. They want to be in control of their feelings. And for good reason, in the sense that if we see somebody who looks wildly out of control and dysregulated, that's pretty ugly, right? People having tantrums, people hysterical, people acting out, people causing violence and harm to people. You can see why people might think, ooh, you don't want that sort of emotion stuff to get out of hand because bad things happen, and they do. But that's not the healthy flow of emotion. When people are dysregulated, they are not regulating their emotion. That is not emotion that's flowing. All right, that's emotion that's been not held properly, right? Not held at all. But it's not about control. None of this is about control per se. It's about allowing a flow that is regulated. Because emotion on its own is never overflowing, overwhelming, violent. Okay? Emotion on its own is like a river with undulating waves, and sometimes they're higher and sometimes they're lower. What our job is to have a wide riverbank that has fairly good sides on it that can let the flow of me come through. Right? Emotion is a very basic energy force that comes through all of us. Right? And we need to be able to be the largest vessel for that we can be. And that's actually growth too. That's actually growing my capacity to allow the most flow of emotion to come through me without it spilling over the banks. Right? So people struggle. They get really narrow little banks and they're trying to get some life force going through, but they've really constricted everything because they're so scared. Or the flip side of that is they have no regulation at all, and any flow that comes through them just spills over and they look pretty messy. So you've got these very over-controlled, narrow little things, or you've got these sort of sloppy, sploshing over the edges. So neither of those are what I'm talking about when I'm talking about allowing the flow. I'm talking about having the flow going through you and holding it in the riverbanks of your psychological structure. All right? And I see emotion literally as waves, right? I see emotion as a flow, like water. And obviously it's an energy wave going through us. But like water, I see these waves that we can surf, that we can ride. And I picture a surfer literally riding the waves of emotion when I think about what it is that we're trying to do in growing our capacity to feel. And there is an actual set of skills that that person has to develop. They have to be able to stay on that board, be solid in their core, be flexible in their knees. They need to have practice. They need to do it and do it and do it. Like anything, you don't get better if you don't do it. Of course, that's one of the problems developmentally. If we've avoided feeling for a long time, we haven't practiced. So we can understand all the physics of surfing. We can understand all the how of how a board stays on the water and a wave carries it. But if we don't get on that board and we don't ride and we don't probably fall off a few times, we're not actually going to grow our ability to surf. And we're not going to grow our ability to feel if we don't let ourselves feel. But in addition, the whole thing is vulnerable. Not only because we might fall off, in fact, we will fall off, right, in the journey of growing our capacity to feel, but emotion itself is something we don't completely control. We don't control where it comes from or where it goes. And you actually need a wave to take you somewhere. Okay? Now listen to how passive that is. I need to have something take me somewhere. Uh-oh, in our culture, that's like, no, 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 I need to drive this car. I need to be the boss of this car. I need to have control, right? But actually, no, I need to allow myself to be carried by something. Oh my God, is that ever vulnerable? And I didn't make the thing happen. That wave came from somewhere. I didn't make it happen. And that wave's going somewhere, and I don't know exactly where. I know kind of in general where it's going, but ooh la la, it could take me here, there, or there. Right? Vulnerable, vulnerable, vulnerable. And I don't know how high it's going to go or how low it's going to dip. Whoa, right? Now emotion's looking a little vulnerable, right? Just to do this right? And yet I can grow if I'm willing to allow myself to be carried by waves of emotion, waves of myself. I need to develop some core capacity here to stay on that board and be taken there. All right? But then I need to allow. Oh, look, there you go. It's vulnerable.